We are back again to you from the Grand King Race Shops at 8155 Crawfordsville Road in Indianapolis. And again, when the ban is lifted, we can get out and about. I highly recommend you come down. This is a working museum. A lot of great race cars. You can see a Target car behind me. You can see the Grand King limousine also behind me. We recommend that you take a run by here and take a look at this place. Quite interesting. Today's show is presented by Honda and Honda HPD, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the NTT IndyCar Series, SVRA, and VP Insurance. Founded in 1993 to spearhead Honda's entry into IndyCar racing, Honda Performance Development has overseen the successful racing efforts at all levels of the sport, from karting and quarter midgets to IndyCar and prototype sports cars. HPD offers race engines and competition products for professional, amateur, and entry-level racers. For more information about HPD and the company's racing products line, please visit hpd.honda.com. I know everybody can hardly wait. Gee, I get to go see the dentist. Well, that's not really what happens, but I'm going to tell you how to see a dentist that you will like seeing. That's at the Indy Dental Group. Dr. Jack Miller and Dr. Liz Lewis have a phenomenal practice, one of the highest rated in the state. So give them a call, make an appointment. Guarantee you, you'll be pleased that you did. The number is 317-846-6125. I also want to mention that McGilvery's has been doing a lot of remodeling, so the next time you go in there, you're going to wonder, where am I? And they will be opening very shortly for carryouts again, so we'll keep you apprised of that, but you'll be very pleased when you see what they've done to the place. I haven't seen all of it. I saw the beginning, but haven't been allowed in yet. So, but it will be really worth your while. If you're interested in finding out why the guys and gals love driving Indy cars, why not take a ride in the two-seater at the Indy Racing Experience? It is absolutely the most phenomenal ride you will get. To make a reservation, you can call the office at 317-243-7171 and ask for Shonda, or you can go online to indyracingexperience.com, look for a date that fits for you. They run at the Speedway and they run around the country wherever the series happens to go. And in the promo box, put DK1 to get a 50% discount. Is it time for insurance for your home, your car, your commercial property? Do what I've done and a lot of people have done. Call Mike Pardee at VP Insurance. We're located at 5004 West 16th Street in Speedway. Give him a call, talk to him. When you have a problem, he's right there to help you. His number is 317-248-0070. And if you have had in mind that you'd like to have a vintage car, or you have one that needs it restored or an engine rebuilt, the Grand King Shops is the place to go. They can take care of it all. Give them a call. The number is 317-820-3595. And if you're a vintage car fan and a Trans Am fan, sports car fan, go to svra.com and subscribe to Speed Tour Magazine. It is the best. That's svra.com, Speed Tour Magazine. You will love it. My guest today is a gentleman that I've had the honor of knowing for a couple of years. He is a doctor. I call him, not a medical doctor, he's a PhD. I call him Dr. Mark. But he has more designations after his name than I can spell. I think almost every letter of the alphabet is in there somewhere. But on top of all that, he's into music. He's into church music and organs. He's into the 500 Festival. He's a multi-time winner of the Sagamore on the Wabash Award. And believe it or not, he's actually here and going to talk to me. I'd please like to welcome Dr. Mark Eutsler.
Thanks, Don. Good to be with you.
How are things going in your world?
Things are going well. Yeah, I'm sitting here in my home office, which is just about a half mile and across the street from where Larry Rice grew up and was a student here at Linden High School. So I'm over here on the west side of the state.
I see a helmet behind you. Is that yours when you ride your motorcycle or when you drove your race car?
Oh, that's for display purposes only. It's some signatures that I collected when it was my 50th consecutive Indy 500 to attend, and just had a commemorative item made out of it.
You know, what's always impressed me is what you have been involved. You're involved in many, many things. In fact, I saw something a week or so ago. You talked about a pipe organ somewhere in some church someplace. And as a kid, I had a grandfather who was a congregational minister, and he was in Beloit, Wisconsin, and they had I think it's 100 and some pipe organ. and I got to play with it. Now, I
Wow.
don't know why they allowed that, because unfortunately I didn't break anything, but they're quite an instrument. What is your connection with music? I know you're into bands and band music and so forth. Are you the guy that drags that big Purdue bass drum around, or are you the one that's beating on it with the mallet?
No, that's not me. But my undergrad degree from Indiana State was in music education, and that's where I started my career. Was as a band and choir director in Frontier, which is Brookston Chalmers in White County, and then later at McCutcheon High School in Lafayette. And so that's my connection. When the opportunity came to be part of the 500 Festival parade and coordinate the bands, it seemed like a good fit. My wife is an organist, and she plays at various churches around this part of the state.
Huh. So of all the designations that you have that follow your name, one of them somewhere in there is to do with music.
One of them is what?
It has to do with music.
Oh, well, yeah, that would be my bachelor's degree is in music education. Yes.
Now, you are obviously a race fan, as particularly Indianapolis 500 fan. How did you get started in that, and what got your interest in it?
My mother is from the Yukon Territory in Canada, and my father met her during World War II. The Army leased the White Pass and Yukon Railroad, which was built during the gold rush of 1898, in order to get oil from the oil fields down to the port in Skagway and to use for the war effort. So that's how they met and got married. And her parents, my grandparents, lived in Whitehorse, and they would visit us every couple of years because it's like 4,000 miles away, so we didn't see them a lot. And so as they were preparing to come one time in the early 60s, my dad asked, what would you like to do while you're here? They would come for about 3 weeks, usually in May. And they said, well, we listened to the Indy 500 on the radio here in Whitehorse, because of course, anywhere on earth you could get the broadcast. We'd like to see it. So that's how my family started going. And I certainly fell in love with it and just never stopped going.
Now, somewhere in Indianapolis, in a little neighborhood bar in the back in the corner, you and Brian Hasler got together and co-founded the Indiana Racing Memorial Association, which is now expanded to ARMA, which is the American Memorial Racing Association. It's gone that well. What got you two guys together, and who had the idea to put this ARMA together?
I contacted Brian. This would have been in the October of 2013. I'd gone to his house. He lived on Rookwood, which is on the east side of the Butler University campus, right on it. His property backed up to campus. And I was aware that the 60th anniversary of the Wilbur Shaw plane crash was coming up. And I thought it would be nice to do something to commemorate that, perhaps a marker at that site. So I shared that with Brian, and he said, that's a great idea. Indiana has so many sites and people involved with racing, of course, racing capital of the world, that I think we could do a program that commemorated lots of different places. So from that conversation, about 6 weeks later, we had a meeting. IndyCar was generous to offer us some meeting space. And in December, we met and formed the Indiana Racing Memorial Association for the purpose of celebrating Indiana's racing heritage through a marker program.
Brian was a fighter, he was a worker. He held many jobs. I think his last one was with a nonprofit. But I found out, because he's on Autosport, I think twice. And the last time I invited him, which was maybe a year ago, he said, I can't come in. I said, oh, is it something I said, as usual, typical? He said, no, I have cancer. I said, ooh. He had cancer of the lungs, and he fought and lasted longer than what the medical profession thought he would.
Yes.
And just recently, last week, as a matter of fact, passed away.
Yes, that's right. He never smoked, but still developed lung cancer, presumably from secondhand smoke. He had a career in politics where a lot of smoking would go on, and you know, back in the day, you know, smoking was everywhere, and so he was susceptible to that. And he had beat it back two other times, and it actually was cancer free. And this last time that it emerged, it really it did so with a vengeance, and just spread throughout his body in different places. But as you say, he was a fighter, a great positive attitude, was always creating ideas and things that we could do to make the world a better place. And I remember once you asking me, may have been a few years ago, a couple of years ago, that how's he doing? And I'd forgotten he was sick because he never acted sick. And I've heard other people say that too, that you know he did his chemo treatments and infusion treatments, and might not feel good for a day, but then he was right back at it. So it was a good way to live.
Yeah, the last time I spoke to him, I had forgotten, as you pointed out, that he was sick. And this was
Yeah.
probably a little more than a year ago. And I've been trying to keep up with you as to how he was doing, and he seemed to be doing fairly well. And then things suddenly, in the last month or so, took a turn for the worse.
Yes, that's right. He was in hospice since November, and was expected to pass away maybe in a couple of months after that, and then just passed away on Saturday. So he outlived the projections by 3 months.
You know, it's sad to say, but as I had pointed out last week, racing has lost a number of people just within the last few months, with Dick Jordan and Bill Simpson, Pat Kennedy, Bill Reeser, John Martin, and now Brian has joined them. Not that he joined them particularly, but his loss will be heavy for IRMA, but the plans have been laid. You two guys in your board of directors have really put a plan together that's going to carry his name and legacy on, and doing very well.
That's right. We had you know, knew this was inevitable at some point, or certainly was a strong possibility that he might pass away. So we created from our board of directors an executive team that's comprised of myself and Bob Gates, Sherry Tucker, and Dave Bozell. And we have been operating that way. Of course, Brian hasn't been able to be active for several weeks, and so we feel good about the future from what we have done in laying the groundwork and how we're doing things, and we feel that's a good model for success, and we'll just continue on and keep refining it.
What I find interesting is your appearance on Facebook quite frequently with politicians and various entertainers that had been in makeup and been coiffured, but you're always on the move. Plus, you are an educator, and if I'm not mistaken, you've told me that what you do is work with those going for PhDs, if I believe what I remember.
Yes, that's right. I'm teaching leadership in the Olivet Nazarene University Doctor of Education program, Doctor of Education in Ethical Leadership program, and actually writing a course for that, and we'll be beta testing it and teaching faculty to facilitate it as well. So I'm excited about that, not only getting to create a course in leadership, which I think is really necessary today. We have a lot of managers in organizations, but very few leaders, and there's a big difference. And I think leadership can make a world of difference of moving the needle to accomplish the mission that an organization says it wants to accomplish. Managers just tend to kind of keep things together. Leaders propel things in a forward motion. And so I'm really excited about that, and especially overlaying ethics into that equation, because I think too that's something that oftentimes we can overlook with the the end justifying the means, as it were, and then but it doesn't have to be that way. I think we can still get to the end that we want in an appropriate way.
I think your point is well taken, in that we do need leaders. managers tend to just, as you said, manage. Somebody has to give them the idea how to step forward.
Exactly.
I think this country needs to train people to take the responsibility. You have the leadership quality, use it, not abuse it, of course, but in order to move forward, we need leaders to do that. And I think there are some that we have there in place, but it seems to me every time they open their mouth, they get shut up. So trying to lead isn't the easiest thing in the world. And I think a lot of people, the younger ones particularly, don't like to be leaders for some reason. And I don't know what it is.
I think it's because they haven't had really good examples of leaders, or they might not know what it means to be a leader. Really, to me, leadership is lifting other people up and giving them an environment in which they can excel and succeed and bring forth ideas. And I just saw a quote the other day that I think I did share on social media, that it's not a leader's role to have all the answers, but it's the leader's job to make sure everyone's voice is heard and then help choose the correct answer. I really like that, because that implies context of who you're dealing with and the situation that you're in. And really the best idea, no one has a monopoly on perspective in this world. And so the best ideas usually come from a group thinking exercise.
And I think that you and Brian both show the leadership thing. You had an idea, you put it together, you've got people involved that know what they're doing. I mean, Bob Gates knows about as much about racing as most anybody in Indianapolis in particular, as leading yourself forward. Somebody I think would be a good one for you to get, if you have some way that students can tune in, would be to talk to Roger Penske. Boy, if there's a leader, there's a guy.
Absolutely. Yeah. One thing I was looking at an interview he had done a couple of years ago, or maybe even longer than that. And he was talking about in the automotive group, sending people to, I think it was the National Association of Auto Dealers or something like that, has a training program. And he said, we send people from various facets, sales managers, executives, mechanics, and receptionists to this. I want everyone trained the same way. And when I hear that, everyone is involved, that makes a lot of sense to me. And I like the idea that the person answering the phone has the same training as the person sitting in the executive suite. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yes, and the interview we did yesterday with S.J. Ludke, Vice President of IndyCar, he indicated when Roger has a meeting and are all sitting around the table, he will even ask people out of the area they're speaking about for their ideas and their input, which I think really shows, what a leader is like, to listen. He's got to listen, which they say he does. If you've got an idea, he'll listen to you. He may not always agree with you 100%, but he will listen. And I think that's what this country is missing, is more leaders. They've got a lot of managers and followers, but they need good, solid leaders.
Absolutely. And as you were saying that, it reminded me of a quality of a leader, obviously, is someone who's not only a good listener, but is curious and wants to find out what other people think, and then have a discussion about how do we put that together.
What's up on the agenda now for IRMA and ARMA? Your next few events that you'll be putting signs up, markers up, honoring various members of the motorsports world?
Well, we've got a couple that we're working on hopefully for later this year. It just depends how the quarantine goes and how available people are. But with Bob Bauman and probably in the Avon area, and then also Bill Marble, probably somewhere in the Speedway area, are a couple that we have on our agenda. We also have one that we're planning to do for John Andretti. There'll probably be a ceremony at Riley where he did so much philanthropic work, and then the installation will be at the track in Newcastle for that one. And there's also one for Cummins Cummins Engines that around its centennial that was celebrated last year. So those four are in motion, if you will. And then we know on the ARMA side, that's the IRMA side, Indiana Racing Memorial, and on the American, which are markers outside of the state, we're certainly looking at Parnelli Jones and AJ Foyt and the Unsers. So those are kind of in the beginning stages as well.
Do you get the same response now? It seems to me over our conversations, and I'm lucky enough that I call more often than not, you answer the phone. Foolishly, because it says on there who's calling. But you do answer.
Well, I'm always hopeful you'll remember the money that you owe me. So.
Yeah, that's, you didn't have to mention that, but going on. When you're looking to do out to the area, AJ Foyt, Parnelli Jones, the Unsers, do you have trouble getting attention and getting cities and towns and counties behind you to help push these events forward?
We really have not. There's a little. It's a different dynamic than if you're here and can hop in the car and go see someone face to face. But a lot of the work is done via email and via phone anyway. And we found the same response of yeah, we're excited about that. The city of Fresno was enormously excited about the marker to honor the Vukovich family, and the town of Red Oak, a suburb of Fort Worth, was equally excited to do one for Johnny Rutherford. And when we found the same thing at Tinley Park for the Bettenhausens, these are the three that we have done nationally. We just found that they were excited about it. They liked celebrating the heritage of this and really appreciated honoring their native folks.
And are they willing to then go in contact, since you're here in Fresno, California is a ways away? Do they help you with finding underwriters to help you with the project, or do you have to email and knock on doors yourself?
Yes, they thus far they have been very forthcoming in helping us with that, and sometimes underwriting it themselves. But that's kind of always been our approach, that we want that partnership with the local community, so they take ownership of it. Because eventually we would like to see these communities taking the initiative themselves, and like maybe River Oaks in Texas saying, we want to have a Johnny Rutherford Day in a couple of years, or something like that, where they're celebrating it. Then our marker program becomes more than just an installation and that people can look at for the next 50 years, but it becomes something that's living. So by having that initial work on an investment of money to pay for the marker and the installation, as well as a ceremony to install it and dedicate it, we hope that springs off of that, so that really the mission of celebrating racing heritage becomes alive and dynamic.
I know that you have memberships for IRMA, and the money, I assume, helps pay for getting your staff and your people, your board, to various events.
Exactly.
If somebody wanted to join and do it in the name of Brian, I think would be really kind of neat. How can they join? Where is it you go to sign up and join, become a member?
You can go on our website, which is racingmemorial.org. You can also find us on Facebook, Indiana Racing Memorial Association, or I think even if you type in IRMA, it may pop up sometimes. So either one of those two ways, and our contact information, our mailing address is there on the website, and as well as application process to join online.
And the membership is not going to put somebody out of business.
No, it's $25 a year, and we appreciate that support. Again, we want to have partners who like what we do, and we usually have a good turnout at an unveiling event, so we know we have a following. And really, we weren't planning initially to have a membership program, but a lot of people said, how can I get involved? What can I do? So we're always looking for ways of building that membership program out, if you will, and having different benefits. Right now, the primary benefit is email blast when something's going to happen relative to a marker unveiling or an event that we're having or involved in, so that you sort of get the word early and can keep in touch that way.
I know we have talked several times about having we wanted to have an event now, but of course that's been put on hold. No thanks to you. You guys are ready to go and have a little dinner and fundraiser. Are you still got in the planning stage for one? So if and when this lockdown is lifted, that you're going to look to putting together an event, a fundraising event?
Well, we will, as you know, because you were part of our last one on March 7th, the roast and toast to Howdy Bell.
For who?
That's right. You'd forgotten who you were roasting that night, as I recall. But that was our last event, and boy, we're so glad that we got it in, because a couple of weeks later, or maybe a week later, I think everything was shutting down. So we just got it in, and it was very successful financially for us, as well as I think folks had a good time. For the first time, we had a live auction. We had a lot of cool memorabilia to sell, and had kind of three ways: a live auction, a silent auction, and some merchandise for sale, and great roasters like you, Don, that made the event enormously successful. So we probably will look at having one next year. Probably won't do another one this year, but that's something we haven't talked about. We try to make our events distinct. We've had them at Sexton's Museum, at Ray Skillman's, and this one was a roast and toast. We may stick with that format too. We can find a person that's fun to roast, and people who'd want to do it, because folks seem to really have a good time with that.
And for those of you who don't know where they roasted and toasted Howdy Bell, it was at Flanner Brothers Funeral Parlor. But Flanner and Buchanan, excuse me. But they have on High School Road and Speedway. But they have a room for that purpose, for gatherings and so forth. So it wasn't. There was an oak box sitting up there, and Howdy was sitting in it.
They were so good to give us that space without cost, and their staff was there to set up tables and linens and all of this thing that makes fundraisers really costly to produce. So we were able to do this at almost $0. Catering was provided by O'Reilly's in Speedway. Again, another great corporate sponsor for us. So those two things combined enabled us to keep the ticket price low, which is what we wanted to do, so folks could come out and enjoy and maybe have a little money left in their pocket to bid on some items if they wanted to. But yeah, I'd said that Howdy's been around so long that we thought having it at Flanner and Buchanan was a safe place, because we could do it either way. And but actually Howdy has an affiliation with Flanner and Buchanan. He's worked for them as a greeter, and I think as a lay minister, he has also done services for folks who didn't have a church affiliation. So they knew him, and were just very gracious to have us in and use the space.
Well, Howdy's told me that among the things he does there, if somebody passes away out of town and they're 6'1", they use him to see if they'll fit in the box.
Yeah.
To get the right size. So he has many duties. Not picking on him. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy. He's a good guy. Unfortunately, he's still able to get out, and he comes through the Auto Sports Show on Tuesday nights.
He is always there. Yeah.
He's there 99% of the time. So, well, I always enjoy talking to you. I wasn't real happy that the reason I hailed you at this time was the loss of Brian Hasler, right, because Brian was a good guy. I didn't know him until IRMA started, but I spoke with him on a number of occasions, and he was always cooperative and helpful, and was silly enough to listen to some of my ideas. Not all of them they could use, fortunately for you. But I think he's going to be missed, but I think what he and you two have laid out for IRMA will continue, and hopefully will continue with his memory there.
Well, thank you, Don. Yeah, I believe so too. And getting to know people like you, and you've been so generous with your contacts to us through the years, as well as we're doing things and calling with ideas and saying, I can hook you up with this person, and getting to meet people like you, and now having a good relationship with folks like you is what makes it all worthwhile. And I know Dick Jordan was much the same way, of his contact list, or calling someone and handing you the phone, and you could talk to whomever. And Dick, I think, is the one that introduced us to you, Don. So thanks for being a part of it with us.
Well, I've enjoyed it, and I neglected to mention the latest member of the racing fraternity to pass away this past weekend also was Bob Lazare.
Yes, yes.
He's been around. He's a rookie of the year at the 500. He drove in a couple of events. His son obviously won the Indianapolis 500, I think, in '96. And his son Jock was quite a good driver, and he won the SCCA national event over in Mid-Ohio one year. So Bob was very much involved in racing, and we're going to miss him as well. But, I thank you for your time, and I thank you for telling us a little bit more about Brian, and hopefully in his name, people will go to your website and join. It's not an astronomical sum of money by any means, $25. We get all the inside scoop from you and from Sherry, and maybe the next event that you have, people will show up. And if they don't come to see Sherry, they're wasting their time. They should. You got a good group of people. I always enjoy chatting with them, and anything I can do to help Autosport is more than willing. Thanks for your time.
Well, thank you, Don. Really appreciate your support and having me on, and thank you for all that you do and keeping us informed in this, changing time that we live in. This feels like a real comfortable connection to see that Autosport's still going on. I love the interview you had with Mark Miles, so informative. So thanks for that. And I've, a lifelong dream today has been realized, and that is I got to see what car you usually ride around in behind you there. So that's really, yeah.
I bring it in because it wasn't fully sunny, so I brought it in a little cloudy.
That's good. It gets dusty if you leave it outside.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
And I try and keep it as tidy as possible. And if anybody wants to ride, we can work something out. All right, thanks. My guest has been Dr. Mark Eutsler, the co-founder of IRMA. And we have other guests lined up in the upcoming days. So stick with us. Autosport will be back. Our latest one will be up by the time this one is. So we'll be filling the airwaves, and you can see us by going to YouTube and then the search box with Autosport radio shows, and they'll all pop up, and you can take your choice and watch them all. Until next time, I want to thank Dr. Mark Eutsler again, and thank my right-hand man, lefty Ted Hollett, and Brian Pierce for making things happen. Until next time, thanks. Good day.